I'm a flat earther and yo lost me at radio waves. What are radio waves? Ham is a meat. What does that have to do with science? You are so stupid.
Radio waves? I explained how they aren't really waves, though they propagate like waves, and I also explained wavelength. Were you paying attention? Ham radio is a very common nickname for amateur radio, just as an amateur actor is called a ham actor. The average person on the street has heard of ham radio, even if they don't know much about it. What does it have to do with science? That depends on how you define science. As pointed out by another commenter, many people in different fields such as surveying have experience with the true shape of the Earth. The one I have the most experience with is amateur radio, so that is why I talked about it in the video. By the way, if you're going to call somebody stupid, you should at least spell it right.
Thesis: Flat Earthers have below average 3D visualization skills. I'd love to see the results of any academic research done in this area.
Based on some of the comments about my 3D anaglyph photo of the moon, I think you may be right.
Ignorant, pompous moron.
My, aren't we complimentary? Since you haven't presented an argument, I can only assume that you don't have one. That basically means that you're admitting I'm right.
Why didn't they put any communication equipment on the moon? Why has no man been to the moon in about 40 years? Why did we have technology that could take us to the moon 50 years ago, but not now? Why did we lose this technology?
There was limited space and weight budget on the lunar excursion module, and there was no reason to take such equipment down to the moon. They did leave laser targets behind, which make it much easier to reflect lasers off the moon, and these can still be used today, although a very powerful laser is needed to do that. If and when a permanent base is established on the moon, there will, no doubt, be communications equipment permanently installed, and probably amateur radio communications will take place as well. To be perfectly frank, after we beat the Russians to the moon, the lunar missions had fulfilled their main purpose, and further missions just couldn't be justified in the federal budget. We didn't lose the technology, we just haven't been using it. Several countries are working on manned missions to the moon, so it is just a matter of time. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We'll see.
Bull!
Meep meep.
There's no such thing as satellites. They cannot get out of the dome. You cannot get through the Van Allen belt. Bull!
Meep meep.
Millions of people use satellites every day, not just hams. There is no dome for them to get out of, and the Van Allen belt can be easily dealt with. It isn't that all-powerful barrier that you people fantasize about.
It's true. NASA backs it up. LOL.
I haven't consulted with NASA, and I have no reason to. What I talk about in the video is not a concern of NASA.
Ask yourselves, how can we see all the same stars in TGR middle of December that we were looking at in the middle of January? That is totally impossible on the ball
Meep meep.
model.
Actually, we don't see all the same stars, but there are only 30 days between the middle of December and the middle of January, so why would you expect a big difference?
Why does gravity, fake, hold ISS, fake, Hubble, fake, satellites a few thousand miles further up, and even the big, fake, ball moon from flying out to space because of centrifugal force? Must be really strong to hold ISS and the moon. Right. So how come there is no gravitational force on them astrofakes? Is your fake gravity selective now? Or do they wear anti-gravity devices? You believe those...
Meep meep.
Wahahahaha. Poor you. Your parents must be disappointed with their small-minded litter offspring. They must have mixed up the baby and the afterbirth and threw the baby and kept the afterbirth. You. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. Lying NASA
Meet.
stick talking
Meet.
again.
It is called orbit, and it is a very well-known concept which happens because of the properties of gravity. I don't have time to go into all the details, although others have on YouTube and elsewhere. Are you really so ignorant that you don't know about orbit? As a matter of fact, the moon is spiraling away from the Earth at a rate of 3.8 centimeters per year. That's about 1.5 inches. In the distant past it was much closer, and in the distant future it will be a lot further away. Over the years my parents have had many reasons to be proud of me. I'd love to know what your parents think of your flat Earth anti-gravity beliefs. I would bet that you are quite a disappointment. By the way, I am not employed by NASA, but if I was, then my parents would have even more reason to be proud.
A lot of emphasis on flat Earth here. Sounds like you're trying to disprove the fact.
There are thousands of videos on YouTube claiming that the Earth is flat. I didn't dig up a few obscure wackos to find something to argue about. I explain how I know the Earth is round based on my experience.
Michelson-Morley experiment. Stationary Earth. If it were a globe, it would have to spin.
The Michelson-Morley experiment set out to prove the existence of ether, and actually proved the exact opposite. Numerous other experiments have also proven that ether does not exist. How sad that ether seems to be a god to you. You just assume it exists, and you use that assumption to try to prove that Earth doesn't orbit the sun. That will end part 3. Part 4 is already in the works. See you then.